In this series of videos, I'm going to teach you how to take a phone number and make it into a date. All right, all the steps involved to make sure that you're actually getting results rather than just getting a bunch of flaky numbers in your phone. All right, so I'm going to teach you how to read her texts and understand them. I'm going to teach you how to text back, how to deal with specific situations, all that kind of stuff. I may even at some point, once the texting stuff is done, even deal with some social media texting type of examples as well. All right, so it's going to really run the gamut. But for this first video, I'm going to talk about something very, very important, probably more important than anything in the texting, which is how to set yourself up to be in a good position with texting, how to get a solid number. Because all the text game in the world is very rarely going to turn a super flaky number that doesn't like you around, whereas even very mediocre text game or very basic text game can take a solid number and turn it into a date. So the easiest and most efficient place to put your work in is before starting the texting by getting a solid number, by running a solid interaction. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about some sort of high leverage points and principles that are going to help you run your interaction solidly. Now, obviously, the better the overall interaction is, the better, right? Obviously, the more you're vibing with the girl, the more you have in common with the girl, the longer you spend with her, the more value you seem to have. All those things matter, and all those things kind of help. But that's just teaching good game in general. That doesn't have to do directly with texting. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to teach you the 3 rules what you need to do to turn any number solid, even like a 10-second number. Even if you just, stop the girl, barely had time, if you do these things, you have a chance of it being a solid number. And especially with a good interaction, you're going to make it very, very solid. So without further ado, these three things are, number 1, get the girl to qualify herself, okay? If the girl doesn't try and win you over at some point, if the girl doesn't make an effort to prove herself to you or to prove that you and she might get along or you and she making plans make sense, something along those lines, then you have no real reason to have wanted to get a number from her, right? If you just go in and it's like, hey, I like you, what's your number? It seems like the only thing you like her for is appearance, and it seems like you would take any girl's number. It doesn't make it special. It doesn't make you seem like a high-value guy in any way, shape, or form, all right? So getting her to qualify herself on some level, whether it be her value to you or the fact that plans make sense or something like that, is going to dramatically improve the chances of going from number to date, okay? So qualification, absolutely, highly, highly critical. Second one. Have the premise of plans, okay? There's really 2 ways to get a number. One is, hey, we're talking, what's your number? The other is, hey, how do you feel about doing this activity? Okay, cool, let's get a number in order to do that activity. Or something along those lines. Or, hey, you know what, this is really fun, we should definitely hang out sometime. She's like, yeah, we should. Okay, cool, what's your number? What you're doing here basically is making the number make sense, all right? Because a lot of guys that do pickup, especially bad pickup, they become what I call the phone number bandit, right? They run in, get a phone number, and leave. And there's no intention, no premise behind the number that make it seem like you're logically going to hang out with the girl, right? It doesn't seem real. But when you actually have an idea in mind and you actually frame it with the idea of a date, you make everything in the texting easier, especially because one of the hardest things to do in text game is to broach the transition between conversation and date. But if from the very beginning there's already the premise that the reason why you got the number was to set up a date, now all your texting along those lines becomes less needy. In fact, because you've set the premise for a date, if you have a good solid set otherwise, a lot of times you may be able to skip through a lot of texting bullshit and just cut straight to the date within a few texts, which is one of the most efficient ways to text when you can, okay? So setting the premise that it's for future plans as opposed to for this nebulous idea of maybe we'll talk is absolutely gonna do a dramatic difference in the percentage of girls that go from number to date. Get your number in her phone. One way or another. It can be you get the number and you just text her right then and there, especially if it's a message she sees or a kind of an interesting message, that can work. Or a lot of times what I like to do is get the girl's phone and text yourself from her phone or have her text you from her phone, something along those lines, or even she texts herself from your phone, something along those lines. One way or another, you want to make sure that when you do text or call the girl later, that it actually comes up with a name that she'll recognize as opposed to 10 random digits. Because most people, if they get 10 random digits, aren't going to remember, especially if you don't text them right away. You don't know what that girl's going to do for the rest of the day, right? So she may go to a party and give her number to other people. She may lose her phone and then get a new phone and then you text her with, with no information. There's all kinds of things that can happen, right? You want to make sure, if at all possible, any way you can, to get your number in her phone so that she recognizes who you are. And also because at that moment when you're getting the number, there's that positive association. Later on that may have faded, especially if it's a quick number. If it's like a quick 2-minute rush number or something like that, she may forget. Like, she won't really forget you, but you're not the absolute biggest thing that happened in her day if it's a quick rush number, okay? So you want to get the number on the phone while you can. It's going to do dramatic things for your percentage.